I'm Dennis Anderson. Julie has the night off, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North. During Black History Month, we highlight the work of the African Heritage Group leading the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation's Unity Fund. We'll talk with the leader of Mentor North about the value of mentors to young people in our region. And we'll have a video report tonight wrapping up an unpredictable Beargrease sled dog marathon. These stories and voices of the region coming up right now on Almanac North. Hello and welcome once again to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. Julie is off this week as we take extra precautions against COVID and provide a little more spacing here in the studio. So let's begin with the headlines. Well, the Minnesota legislature began its 2022 session this week, convening at the state capitol in St. Paul. High on the priority list will be how to spend a projected $7.75 billion budget surplus. You can follow the legislature by tuning in to the Minnesota channel weekdays on your public TV station. Wisconsin State Senator Janet Bewley, a Democrat from Delta, announced this week she will not seek re-election this fall. Bewley is the current Senate Minority Leader, and she has spent 8 years in the Senate and 4 years before that in the State Assembly. Bewley said she looks forward to spending more time with her family and her husband, who retired recently. The Duluth Seaway Port Authority reported this week that shipping tonnage in the Twin Ports has bounced back from pandemic-induced lows. Nearly 33 million short tons passed through the port in 2021, a 27% increase over the previous season and more than 2% higher than the 5-year average. Iron ore was the top cargo in 2021, with just over 20 million tons shipped from the Twin Ports. And while the Winter Olympics take place halfway around the world in China, Duluth is hosting skiers from around the country this weekend at Spirit Mountain. The 44th annual Atmore Memorial Mid-America Slalom Race features some of the top U.S. skiers. The event began today and will run through Sunday, with racing beginning at 8:30 a.m. each day. Well, the month of February is Black History Month, and a local group is leading an effort to build and strengthen the local African heritage community. Leaders of the Unity Fund, a part of the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation, are gathering history and documenting the importance of generations of African heritage people who shaped the community. And so here to tell us more is Salam Witherspoon, the chair of the Unity Fund Committee, and Janet Kennedy, who is a member of the City Council, is a member of the Unity Fund Committee. Thank you both for being here tonight. Good to have you. Salam, let's start with you. What will you do with the history that is being gathered?
I guess shape it. I know a lot of history has been lost, and we don't know all the details of everything, but hopefully we'll shape history and, start to write our own.
So you're collecting from many years' experience, hoping people will come in as added to talk with you?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What is the Unity Fund? What's its goal? What are you up to with that?
I mean, to, reduce generational barriers and provide sustainability, to build wealth to families that, haven't had the opportunities to. Mm-hmm.
And I know Salam, that, or Janet, let's go to you. I know, for example, that the Unity Fund is fairly new. I think it started, in 2020. Tell us about its beginnings. How did it get started?
So we've been having conversations about inequities for our community members, and we know there's been several things that have happened to the African heritage community historically, and even in Duluth there had been some redlining and things like that. So we had talked about place making or a hub, and we recognized that the hub was going to take a little time and that we needed to somehow have some funds to help take care of some of the disparities that are happening now while we build more infrastructure.
So when you say redlining, African American individuals here in town were not able to get funding for homes, for other purposes?
In Duluth and across the country, that redlining has hurt the African heritage community. it's really impacted our community as a whole. You know, I really believe a community will only survive and prosper when we're all walking on even ground.
Yeah. To who will monies in the fund be dispersed?
You know, the funding is for African heritage, African American organizations and individuals who are working towards building more sustainability and resiliency.
Mm-hmm. And I know, Janet, you've created a narrative to kind of explore the voices of African heritage women. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So a few years ago, while I was running and just working on who I was as a somebody running for office, but as a Black woman, my voice wasn't at the table, but also folks weren't really taking me seriously. So what I really tapped into Sojourner's truth story and Tarana Burke as far as the Me Too campaign. So I meshed them together to come up with a construct or a narrative about Ain't I a Woman Too. And so recorded African American women and others, intergenerational, just saying, ain't I a woman too? It's a powerful video of those voices and what we can happen, and visualizing and understanding that we as African heritage women have a voice that have sustained communities, the community of Duluth, communities all over the United States for many, many years.
Salam, what are some of the generational barriers then that the African heritage population have faced over the years?
I would say lack of transportation, education, childcare. I mean,
there have been a number of them. Yeah.
Countless.
Yeah. You're getting support, I know, from the Ordine Foundation. You're also getting support from the Duluth Superior Community Foundation. To what degree is that helping?
I mean, immensely. It's given us a start, and so we're asking for matching funds to match the funds that we already have. But just acknowledging that there is a need to promote and restore, be more equitable, like racial equity, like restore racial justice. And so I think the acknowledgement piece is a lot.
Salam just mentioned racial inequities and racial justice. I'm wondering, Janet, how has your cultural history been largely ignored by much of society, or has it been ignored?
Definitely it's been ignored. We understand that the true stories haven't been told. I think the most important things that we need to look at is, what are those generational barriers? How are we building wealth within the African heritage community? That's so important to our economy as a whole. We need everybody to be able to do well, for our community to do well, for our country to do well.
So how are you collecting stories? How are you documenting the history?
So my project, the Ain't I a Woman Too, we're using that and creating a video, and that'll be shown as a photo voice project. It'll tell some other stories about Tarana Burke and about Sojourner Truth, as well as some local community voices. And then I know Salam has another project she's working on as well.
And what is that, Salam?
So I'm reaching out to families that have been here for generations and asking a member of each generation to come and kind of share what it has been like living in a town with lack of opportunities and support to advance, and just a vision of what they would imagine it could be like if we had an equitable chance.
And with that, Salam and Janet, time goes fast on the air. We have to run. Thank you very much for being with us. All right. Thank you very kindly. The 38th annual John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon is now in the books, with plenty of twists and turns along the way. WDSE had a team following the race from start to finish, and producer Megan McGarvey brings us this fresh look from the trail.
Welcome to the John Beargrease Marathon. We're here covering the marathon in all of its distances. We're even going behind the scenes and talking to veterinarians and all of the volunteers that make this race possible. Sunday morning of January 30th, the 38th annual Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon was underway. Spectators lined up for miles, cheering as they watched the mushers and their teams go by. At At the Highway 2 checkpoint, our team caught up with Beargrease musher Morgan Martens about his strategy for completing the 120 race.
Our first leg was so fast. I think we're going to keep the dogs close to 10 miles an hour. So our goal is to finish.
Our team spoke with the head veterinarian for the race about how vital the volunteer vets are for the safety and well-being of the four-legged racers.
So it's very important that vet checks are happening because the welfare of the dogs is like our number one priority. And it's the musher's number one priority too. So we want to make sure that the dogs are handling the mileage well, that they're recovering well, and that they're safe to go down the trail. Any checkpoint that has dogs at it, we have vets at. And we kind of bunny hop each other up the trail. So there's always vets at a checkpoint anticipating dogs coming in, and there's always vets waiting for everyone to leave. So we have like a first in and a sweep. And there are mandatory vet checks throughout the race, both for the mid-distance and the marathon team. It's wonderful to be able to give these dogs care at no cost to the mushers. It's just an all-around great for everybody.
In the meantime, we took the time to go to Sawbill, one of the most serene parts of this race. It is also one of the main reasons why the Beargrease is an IDITAROD qualifier. Let's take a look. At 5 a.m. on Monday morning, mushers are arriving to this secluded checkpoint where they will not be assisted by their dog handlers. Here, they will give their dogs plenty of food, water, and rest before heading back onto the trail. After the mushers have finished their mandatory 4-hour rest at Sawbill, they will hit the trail once again to Trail Center, the next checkpoint. At this checkpoint, they will have the assistance of their handlers. We spoke to Sophia Mars of Stump Jumping Kennel about this unique job.
So normally musher handlers are with the team throughout the whole year. So whether they work for them, family, friends, I mean, mushers really want someone who knows their dogs, knows them, knows what they're going to do. Because when a musher pulls in, they don't really want to do a lot of talking. They don't want to do a lot of explaining. We just have our routine down and we can get moving and get these guys sleeping because rest is the most important thing for these dogs. It is pivotal for musher handlers to be at this checkpoint right away. So we can get everything set up. We can double check that we have the correct food, that we have our straw, that we have water, and so we can get some rest too. I mean, musher handlers are driving from checkpoint to checkpoint, and so sometimes our rest is cut short too, and the more rested your whole team is, the better off everybody is, including the dogs. So it's very crucial that musher handlers get to their checkpoints, get set up, get settled in, know where things are before their team comes in. With over 10 mushers leaving the competition, this year's race has proven to be incredibly challenging, with warmer temperatures impacting trail conditions and the conditions of the dogs. We caught back up with musher Ryan Reddington about his experience with the Beargrease and what he is looking forward to in the season ahead.
We were having a lot of fun, but unfortunately our race ended at Trail Center. But we'll be back at this race next year and look forward to it. On Thursday we'll start driving to Alaska, and so we'll be up there running some races up there and being back home in my hometown where I grew up.
We are here at the finish line of the John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon. We've seen Ryan Anderson take first, Wade Mars take second, and Colleen and Arrow Wallen taking third and fourth respectively. We were able to catch up with Ryan Anderson and Wade Mars about their race.
It was a tough trail this year. It really was. There were parts that were pretty nice, but most of the trail was a tough trail.
I tried to play with the heat of the day, and it kind of got me a little bit. They're getting more used to the heat being down here, so it's pretty good.
It's just always rewarding to make it to a finish line, first, second, third, last, whatever. It's just an accomplishment to make it to the finish.
It has been one heck of a race this year, and it is truly amazing to see all of the behind the scenes veterinarians and all of the volunteers that make this possible.
Our volunteers just make this race. We have people that give up, 6-7 days of vacation. They come and they work with us. And right now we're looking for younger folks to kind of come up through the ranks and learn from some of these folks that have been around for 30 years and hopefully continue that Beargrease tradition.
Now, if you are interested in becoming one of those vital volunteers, go to beargrease.com to learn much more. A positive adult role model can make a positive impact in a young person's life. Mentor North provides a conduit between adults and young people looking for a little guidance. They offer community-based mentoring relationships following the best practices. And here to tell us more is Beth Burt, the Executive Director of Mentor North. Beth, thank you very much for being here tonight. Good to have you. What is Mentor North? What's it all about?
Well, Mentor North is your one-to-one mentoring organization in the area. So we're the only organization that pairs adults with youth for a one-to-one mentoring relationship.
So how important is it to have that one-on-one between adults and young people?
Oh, it's so vital. And I think if any of us think back to thinking back to our youth or even in our adult lives, the different mentors we've had, the different teachers or people that we looked up to that maybe asked about us when we really needed them to, or who just stepped in and did something nice for us one day.
We didn't even realize maybe they were mentors.
You know what, I don't think we maybe even called them that, but there were those people that did that. And so we know that everyone needs, no one gets through this life alone. Everyone has to do it together with some other people. And so mentors are really vital.
So what does a mentor do?
Well, a mentor's role is really just to be there just for that one youth and to spend one-on-one time with them. So mostly what they do is they get together and they do fun things. They do activities that they enjoy and they explore new activities that maybe they want to try. And then they just chat and talk about what's going on in that youth's life. And sometimes those are day-to-day things and sometimes those are real serious questions.
If a person is interested in becoming a mentor, how do they get in contact with the youth and how are they paired up? What happens?
Well, first of all, they contact Mentor North and then they go through a screening process. So we do an interview, they have an application, we do background checks, we have a training that they go through, and then at that point we've learned enough about them and ensured safety and availability and all of that. And then we really look at interests and characteristics and personalities, and we really dive in really deep to that. So we pair people knowing that they'll be able to form a relationship with each other and that they'll have things that they like to do together.
Do you find that most mentors do hook up pretty well? And what if you don't? What if you find out a few weeks into it, this isn't working?
Well, we have program advocates on staff that support our mentors and support the youth in forming a relationship. I mean, you can imagine it can be a little awkward. You're strangers,
certainly.
You're just getting to know each other, so they support them in helping to find ways to get to know each other. And if something doesn't work out, we can always break that match and form a different relationship, and that child can get a different mentor. But that doesn't happen very often.
So how do you match an older person with a young person? How do you go through that?
Well,
They fill out questionnaires? You ask a lot of questions?
Oh, tons. We have people that sit down and do an hour-and-a-half interview.
Really?
We ask all kinds of questions about interests and personalities and values, and we do the same with the family. And we actually always talk to the youth. We don't just go off of what the parents say. We always make sure that the youth's voice is considered and that they are speaking to what they need and want.
What is the commitment of a mentor? How much time? How much energy?
Well, we ask mentors to commit to at least 4 hours a month and to commit to a year to a youth. And what we find is that people tend to do a little bit more and they tend to stay a little bit longer sometimes, but that's the commitment.
Mm-hmm. What's the process of becoming a mentor?
Well, if you reach out to Mentor North, so you can go on our website, we have an application on there, or you can, there's an email, info@Mentor North, that you can just ask for an application. At that point, we'll sit down and talk through the whole process, but we have a great training that helps prepare mentors and we have lots of support.
So Beth, is there a need for additional mentors now?
There's just an incredible need. I think we've all seen what's going on with our youth, with COVID and the lack of being in school and more isolation and less time with their friends and inactivities, that I think that that's just causing some depression and some anxiety in our youth. And so to me right now is just the most important time. If you ever thought about it, like now would be the most time, because they're just dying to have someone to talk to and to cook with and bake with, and they just want to play with your dog.
And so what do mentors get out of it? What do they feel?
Well, what mentors have told me, and I just became a mentor myself, so I can tell you a little bit about what it's like for me, but I think it's really a relationship that goes both ways. There's a lot to be learned from the youth and to Honestly, I just went sledding for the first time in a long time with my youth, and you know what? It was fun. I had a really fun time. It's not something I get to do all the time, and so I would say mentors get to have some fun.
It sounds like it's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Beth Burt, Executive Director of Mentor North, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Denny.
you so kindly. Well, it's time now for Voices of the Region. Each week we hear from a journalist covering stories of interest here in the Northland. This week our reporter is Heide Holtan from KAXE Community Radio in Grand Rapids.
Recently, a group of people in Crow Wing County have been questioning the outcome of the 2020 election and have claimed fraud and have asked repeatedly for audits of what happened in Crow Wing County, where former President Donald Trump won by a large margin. We wanted to understand more about the processes that are in place if there is fraud. So we reached out to Minnesota Secretary of State, Steve Simon, about what happened in Crow Wing County.
And you know, our process in Minnesota, we have really good laws in Minnesota that give every opportunity before, during, and after an election for oversight, for review, for checks and balances. And even now, if someone has evidence of suspected misconduct or wrongdoing, they can go to law enforcement. Of course, that clock never runs out. But the election was held 14, really going on 15 months ago. And there is no legitimate reason to second guess the integrity of the 2020 election in Crow Wing County. And part of the reason is credit to Crow Wing County. They ran a really top-notch election. They have one of the best election administrators around, period. They run a tight ship. Their work was reviewed. They did post-election audits and reviews. We reviewed that. It was done very professionally and ethically and non-politically.
He went on to reiterate how voting in Minnesota and the process is not done by the Secretary of State's office. It is local. It's people from all political persuasions that are trained to hold fair and balanced elections. We are on the banks of the Mississippi River in Grand Rapids. Big windows looking out on the river. We're watching the birds all the time. Right now, it's lots of chickadees and juncos. And though we get a chance to hear Laura Erickson regularly with her segments on For the Birds, we decided we should do a deep dive with her on chickadees. We had questions like, how do they handle the cold? One of the things she told us was that chickadees sleep alone.
Each chickadee has its own little tiny cavity. People used to think they bunched together the way several other species do. They can turn their thermostat down at night. So their body temperature goes down from about 105 to 108 in the daytime, like when it was 20 below. Their bodies were 128 degrees warmer than that, just millimeters from the icy air.
Yeah.
But at nighttime, they can turn it down to the upper 60s. And so they don't need as many calories overnight. When they wake up in the morning, their bodies start violently shivering, and that raises their body temperature quickly.
Each and every Tuesday, we get a chance to listen to students who remind us to pay attention even in the wintertime.
This is Noah from Mrs. Magner's second grade class. At Hill City Elementary School, we have been recording phenology observations all year, but this is our first report. You might think there isn't much to see outside in the winter, but if you look carefully, you will be surprised. We have seen a lot of deer this winter. They don't seem to mind the cold and the snow. Carson saw a dead deer along the road. It was covered with crows and eagles. Have dinner, yummy. We have been learning about animal tracks. It is fun to try it to figure out which animal have been walking through the snow. It is kind of like being a detective. A lot of my classmates have seen turkeys this winter. How do they keep their bare feet warm in the snow? I saw an asteroid shooting across the night sky. It was so cool. Janaea is still noticing ladybugs in her house. I guess they found a nice warm place to spend the winter in. That's our report for this week. Work hard and be kind.
I've heard that before. That's our time, but you can keep up with the latest by following Almanac North on Facebook and Twitter. Bookmark the WDSE website for program updates, news about the station, and upcoming events. And download the PBS video app to watch your favorite PBS programs anytime you'd like. And finally, if you're looking for a fun event this weekend, the Duluth Entertainment and Convention Center has something new. North of Nashville is this Saturday and is a free event that offers an inside look into songwriting from professional musicians. There's a songwriting contest, food, drinks, and music starting 6 p.m. Saturday. So thanks to our guests and the crew here in the studio, I'm Dennis Anderson. Good night, everybody, and be kind.